Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Militiaman and Crew here, and we have a wonderful guest. He's been roaming around looking for something to do, and I finally got him back on screen time. And this one's Wally. And you guys, if you notice, he's all black. And Winnie, she has a copper stripe. And of course, Ophelia, she's the beautiful blonde. Okay. Anyway, you guys, it is a wonderful day. Today is Monday, and we have lots of things to go over because there's been some really, positive things happening. In brief, some of the things that we're going to talk about is that there's many different countries that are gearing for Iraq's internationalism, as I would say. You have, we know the tour that al-Sudani has done, and Washington, and then home, and then Turkey came to the show, and then others have been in the background. Iran has been in the background. Jordan's been in the background. Other countries to the Middle East that have been probably pretty quiet, effectively. But Iraq, as a mediator, there's information that suggests that that's exactly what the Iraqi government's doing. Al-Sudani and his teams are working on in helping facilitate key things that are trying to bring the region together as a whole, as a mediator. And we know that through Saudi Arabia, with Iraq being helped to the WTO. Obviously, we saw components of that the other day with the WCO, with the negotiations. You'll see some of that today, but you won't see their name involved. But we know that from about, let's say, the last 4 or 5 days, maybe more ago, we know that the fifth session, and now the sixth session with Iraq has taken place. Again, though, keep in mind, though, you have major entities in the world, some of the largest in the world. I'm being specifically talking about the progression of things that are underway. Jordan being key is because, it's got energy, or not necessarily energy, electricity, if you will. They have that hooking up the Gulf countries, hooking up electricity. So that's all in the background. And all of those things have been underway. So what I believe is happening is effectively some sort of a reconciliation that's relatively quiet, because again, you're going to see that I talk about more than just one country. That's a big thing. So, but this particular article, we'll start off with Iran and Iraq. Iran and Iraq, they have probably one of the most important, well, I'm going to be careful on that, but it is a very important trading partner, one of the largest, if not the largest trading partner directly to Iraq. And they have historic relationships, and they have what they believe to be Iraq's historic, because it's an ancient civilization. It's goes back a long way in time, everybody. But Iraq has always been one of those countries that helps cool everybody's jets. Let's all get along in the region. So this article here in Patreon, in our Militiaman and Crew Patreon room, which is www.patreon.com/MM and Crew. And you can find all of these articles in our forum. Not all of them in the forum, but a lot of them, if they're in the forum, they have some analysis of mine. Most every single article that we have is in our Discord chat room, and that flows just about 24/7. Not necessarily the news, but it's open for business, if you will. Okay, so come join us if you like, and see the value in it. The Ministry of Commerce announced today, on yesterday, which was May 5th, the launch of the meetings of the sixth session of the Iraqi-Iranian Committee in Tehran. The meeting of the Iraqi-Iranian Joint Committee began in its sixth session, which is chaired by the side of the Trade Minister, Daoud al-Houari, to discuss strengthening economic trade relations and understandings, and the 10 joint memorandums of understanding that the two sides intend to sign in different fields to serve the common interest. And you're going to find that they have that on the table today. So again, they have it on the table because the meetings were on the 5th and today is the 6th. The work of the committee will continue on the 5th and 6th days of May, where today will be the discussions of the specialized committees in the presence of members of the delegation of the two sides to reach the joint final minutes at the headquarters of the Iranian Ministry of Economy and Finance. So basically, final minutes, stage 6 of the session, that was today. So let's see how they roll with that. I think that we're probably going to have some more information on that even tomorrow, but again, we'll get to it shortly. Ministry of Trade to who? Iraq and Turkey. Their relations are living a new start, and these trades are the task of the Joint Economic Commission. So there we have it. So numerous countries, but we're just starting off. We have Iran, we have Iraq, and Turkey. So there's 3 countries talking already. What have they done? It says that their relations have crystallized within a legal framework that will address and eliminate all obstacles to the development of trade relations to serve the 2 countries. I like the idea of crystallizing because it's becoming what? It's becoming in stone. President Erdogan's recent visit to Iraq and the signing of a package of memorandums of understanding in the sectors of health, reconstruction, planning, investment is a new start that is completely different from the previous in relations with Turkey and the worldwide as well. So obviously inroads have been made, and now Sudan is behind all those inroads. I think it was his achievements is that they're pretty proud of talking about, and they should be. It says the Joint Trade Committee has become a legal framework. So it's a legal framework now to overcome, facilitate all obstacles and procedures for Iraq, Turkish businessmen and traders together, through which we can take care of all issues related to the private sector in partnership with the public sector. So the legal framework's in place. It's just paving the way to go. They go on to say in the past, or actually today, it says the head of State of Law Coalition, Nouri al-Maliki, confirmed today that Sunday, Iraq's openness, you guys realize this is yesterday, right? Openness to all countries of the world, especially Arab and Islamic countries. So by al-Maliki, stating that Iraq's openness to all countries of the world, depending on translation, I think it's basically stating that Iraq is open to do business globally and regionally. It's fascinating stuff. The next one here is Jordan. Jordan considers Iraq one of its most important key partners. In Jordan's context, it is Iraq is their most important trade partner in the investment fields. Jordan Minister of Investment Khalid al-Sakaf on Sunday considered Iraq one of the most important partners of its country in the investment field, stressing that Jordan attaches the utmost importance to Iraqi investments by providing all the necessary facilities to it to enhance its presence on the investment map in the kingdom. They're working together in conjunction. So now we have another country involved. It says this came in a speech during the launch of the activities of the Economic Forum for Financial, Industrial, Commercial Partnerships between Iraq, Jordan, and the region. So obviously they've been working on this, and it's obviously a focal point for the region. It says the convening of the forum comes at a time when the brotherly relations between between the kingdom and brotherly Iraq have reached a distinguished level that inspires pride, and in various fields of joint bilateral cooperation, especially economic and investment. Iraq is one of the most important major partners in Jordan in the investment field and exports Arab investments and distributed among a number of vital economic sectors with added value, such as industry, tourism, real estate, development, banking services, and others, trade. So they go on to a big deal with this particular article. Why? Because they're going to invoke some really big names too. And but think about it. When I talk about these names, you can probably apply a lot of these names to each and every one of the countries that I talked about. And one of the things that they don't mention in this particular article is the WCO, but we've already talked about that with Iran. Okay, now WTO, those entities have a say in a lot of different things, and they work in connection to one another. So keep that in mind. And then remember, if you want to go back into my audios or my videos, whatever, to verify some of this stuff, you can go back and do it, because I go back in time to find information, because watching what happened in the past or what they've said in the past and then see it unfold, then you can come back and say, whoa, they did do that. They ended up doing it. They have said they were going to do something, and they do it. And a lot of times the Central Bank of Iraq is actually early in on things, and we don't even get that information for days. So keep that in mind. I know that it's tough, because it sounds like, well, we've heard this before for 20 years. We hear that a lot, but hey, it's not 20 years ago, so let's keep that in mind. This particular article, though, it says the council organizes the forum in cooperation with the Union of Arab Businessmen, the International Investment Guarantee Agency, and hold that thought right there. For the private sector, we have an International Investment Guarantee Agency. If you don't know what it is, you just look it up. It's fascinating. You're going to find that it's important for the private sector. It's important for investors. And says, they go on and say the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group. We've known about that. They're talking again about them. The Association of Information and Communication Technology Companies, called INJAZ, is involved. The Association of Private Banks and the Jordanian Banks Association, okay, the Association of Iraqi Private Banks, forgive me, Jordanian Banks Association, the participation of the Jordanian Corporation for the Development of Economic Projects, which is called the JEDCO, and the Jordan Free and Development Zones. So they're working on doing industrial free development zones, just like Iraq is doing with other countries, and vice versa. But basically, this is another major trading partner praising Iraq's future, relationships in major trade, banking, financial, and investment. And if you look at the lineup that I just mentioned, or if you Google the lineup, you can say, wow, so they are basically gearing to go international. The Investment Guarantee Agency involved will, in my opinion, add to the successes that Iraq's about to have, because guarantees, sovereign guarantees, investment guarantees are really big. It gives people confidence, and that's what they've been talking about. Remember, restore confidence? Yeah, it's powerful, because Iraq's going to bring that confidence. Here's one that says it's starting tomorrow, which is actually now tomorrow, which is now, I believe, time-wise, it's tomorrow in Iraq. But it says the Iraqi Council of Ministers approves the 2024 budget schedules. So the Council of Ministers approves the 2024 budget schedules. So the next step would be to take those schedules and deliver them to the House of Representatives. Now, if we see that, that's going to be powerful, because everybody's kind of like biting their nails, because it could very well suggest that something could happen prior to that happening. So it's a nail biter. So enjoy the evening and see what happens. But again, let's see what they do, because if there's something that we don't know and we've missed, it's just the way it goes. We're going to do the best that we can to bring the good information in that we do, and we'll analyze it as it goes. It says the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Mohammed Saleh, revealed on Monday, so that was today, there's new details related to the budget lists and schedules for the 2024 budget, which are still under discussion. Interesting point. He says it's still under discussion, even though the headline says that the ministers approve it, but it's still under discussion in the Iraqi Council of Ministers. So that's kind of contradictory, so we'll be patient and watch and see what it says. It says Saleh suggested that the Council of Ministers in a session tomorrow, which is Tuesday, will discuss and approve the budget law schedule. So now it comes out to the light, and then send them to the House of Representatives as soon as possible. So there you have it. So it's, again, the way it reads is that it's hopefully for tomorrow. It says, according to what was stated in the law number 13 of 2023, the lists and tables of the tripartite general budget law should be submitted to the House of Representatives. Okay, but they also remembered one thing, is that the 2023 budget law was passed and approved by the House of Representatives already. They gave the right for the government and the Council of Ministers to be able to amend schedules and texts and tables without the approval of them. Okay, so that's interesting. It says Mohammed Shia al-Sudani on the necessity of the completing of the schedules of the budget law for 2024 is saying he's expediting sending them to the House of Representatives for the purpose of discussing and voting on them. And so look, that's pretty big. So time is short right now, so let's see what happens tomorrow, and we'll see what they tell us in respect to that happening. Tomorrow is going to be another day, but it looks like it's show and tell time. Does al-Sudani gives the order or gives the information, and they finish the completion in the Council of Ministers tomorrow, and they get it to the House of Representatives? We're going to find out. So I'm looking forward to it. One way or the other, the evidence, aside from that, evidence shows Iraq is going international, and we're showing that information blatantly. Iran calls for the use of national currencies and economic exchange with Iraq. Well, don't they already do that? Why would they be talking about that today? Well, isn't it interesting that Iraq is still talking about al-Alaq, the central bank governor, has not changed deviation from going to the project to delete the zeros from the exchange rate? I haven't seen anything on that he's denied it or he's going to quit. I've seen some other things that suggest that he is definitely going to, even in our forum, our Patreon room with Militiaman and Crew. It says the Vice President Mohammed Makbar on Monday, Iraqi Trade Minister Athir Dawood Salman al-Hariri. These guys got together. It says, according to the Iranian agencies, during this meeting, an informant says that the achievements and successes of the Iraqi government and people have always been of special importance to the Islamic Republic of Iran, expressing his hope that we will witness day after day the achievements of more successes and prosperity for these people of the two countries. And so the more successes and achievements, it sounds like they're appreciative of al-Sudani's what he's done. That's what I see in that. It goes on to say they're facilitating cooperation with the private sector between the two countries, developing economic relations between both. The Iranian private sector has a great motivation in Iraq's work due to the friendly relations that they have between the two countries and the presence of the holy shrines. Well, isn't that about tourism? I believe it is. Somewhat about tourism. There's a lot of money in tourism. There's a lot of money in religion, for instance, but we'll leave that alone. It says here that Mukbar has also stressed the necessity of using national currencies in economic exchanges, pointing out that the friendly, deep, and historical relationships between the two countries requires the use of national currencies in commercial and economic exchanges, instead of using the currencies of third countries or a third country. In other words, not the dollar, not any other country, not the euro, not the British pound, not the Canadian, doesn't matter. They're talking about those two countries are national. Between those two. So if Iraq is going to do a change in value of their currency at any level, it will have an impact on Iran. If it is an impact that Iraq is going to go back to a previous era, which they discussed themselves numerous times, I'm not making it up, that to me would mean is that the neighbor has got to get on a level playing field at the same time. Them talking about this on a day like today, which is the 6th of May, I find that to be very interesting. What were they having? They had the 6th session of their meetings about trade agreements, which I back up and say, well, remember the WCO? They were involved in that. Facilitation, WTO, the ATF, okay? Agreements for trade facilitation. The WCO has been helping Iraq and Iran facilitate. That is powerful. That's what we have in the videos that I talked about. And here you're seeing that, you're going to see them talk about signing agreements today. But they don't disclose if they did, they just talk about that they were to sign agreements and finish the final minutes. So keep that in mind. I think that was the key focus. Yeah, got that. It's good. It says here that another article by the name of the Government Apparatus Restructuring Committee confirms the progress of reforms. This is from the Prime Minister's Office of Iraq. Basically, it's the progression of reforms, and that's what we've been seeing. Progression. One thing after another. Al-Sudani has been going around doing his visits. He's been signing memorandums of understanding, water files with Turkey, all the different deals with all these different countries like we mentioned. So he has a Supreme Committee for Restructuring the Government's Apparatus confirms the progress of these reforms undertaken by the government in the administrative, financial, and economic aspects, all in parallel, all at the same time. So it goes on saying that during the meeting, the papers on the agenda were discussed, and emphasis was placed on proceeding with the reforms undertaken by the government in the administrative, financial, and economic process aspects, and they do it at the same time. And they're basically saying that they have some very important priorities of the government program on the table. It says the work stages of the reform process, the study of seeking the help of international companies specialized in this field, or a company. They emphasize forming a small team to study the papers that will be discussed in their next meeting. So basically they have the monitor process. They got teams in place. They're going to try to maintain a smooth transition into a market economy. That is exactly what is to be expected. As I talked about with Jordan, those massive entities, they're some of the largest in the world. They're in the background. The World Bank's in the background. The Bank of International Settlements is in the background. The United States Treasury is still in the background with the Iraqi 2 file. U.S. Federal Reserve, everybody's still in play. And that's what's happening. So the next thing is it's like this reconciliation that I was talking about. It's that, there's 6 different countries that border Iraq. And so you have to have somewhat of a reconciliation between everybody to be on the same page and have fair trade. And again, that comes back to the WCO, the Customs Organization, and the WTO. But here, the regional presidency spokesman, Neshirvan Barzani, visit Tehran is aimed at strengthening relations and good neighborliness. It says basically the visit comes as a confirmation of strong relations between the two sides. It says they have historical relations with Iran from the time of Iraq's opposition and the struggle of the Kurdish forces against the dictatorship. They're talking about during the Saddam era. But they basically are looking at, they want to have neighborliness and they want to have economic and commercial trade. And the entity of the Kurdistan, the countries, especially the countries that are neighboring Iraq, which I just mentioned, the Kurdistan region is always a factor of stability, security, and peace in the region, as well as good neighborliness and mutual respect. That's a big thing today. It's going to be redundant, so I'm going to be careful on going over the same redundancies, but that's a key point. It says developing relations, corresponding respect, economic and trade relations, and stability in the region will be the most important topics during this visit. And they go on to say that during the visit, Barzani is scheduled to hold meetings with the Iranian leader Ali Khamenei, Iranian presidential Ibrahim Raisi, and Iranian parliament speaker Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf. So basically, Barzani's been to Iraq about the 5th time this time around in 11 years, so it's not that often. And it also comes after the Turkish president came to Baghdad and Erbil last month in a visit considered historic. So see how they're doing this? They're rolling this out maybe in a fashion that's kind of a hierarchy situation. So it's fascinating to see this unfold. It's really powerful because we're watching history again, and the history books are going to be written about what we're involved in. Raisi and Nishirvan Barzani agreed on coordination between Iraq and the Kurdistan region for stability in the region, again reiterating that the basis of good neighborliness, common interest, raising the level of trade exchange and economic relations. and they basically reiterate long-standing of historical relations with the Republic of Iran and Kurdistan. Well, obviously that's a portion of Iraq. Iraq and Baghdad and Kurdistan are working together, and again, these articles are going to support that Iraq, Baghdad, and Kurdistan are getting along, and now they're showing a team effort with the Kurds and Tehran. So we're going to have to see how that goes. And here, this one is another one. It's Barzani Abdullahani discuss strengthening political and economic relations. Government looks forward to the results of the visit. So both sides are looking for the results. In other words, so we did this. Now let's see what happens with the results of what we just did. I think that's pretty cool. The consistent approach of the Kurdistan region, especially the president of the region, is that the Kurdistan entity is always a factor of stability, security, and peace in the region. So again, today they've been hammering it home. So on another note, we're talking about sovereign guarantees, things like that. Iraq, the Trade Bank of Iraq, and Japan, for instance. It says Al-Sudani supports the signing of a memorandum of cooperation between the TBI and the Japanese International Cooperation Foundation. It says that, what are they talking about? The committee's talking about sovereign guarantees. That's important. We talked about investment guarantees. Now we're talking about sovereign guarantees. They grant sovereign guarantees to the private sector. Okay, the budget law of 2023. There's a cabinet resolution 23404 of 2023 that they're talking about. But here the memorandum includes Japanese institution financing projects for the Iraqi private sector to establish factories inside Iraq with the aim of localizing the national industry in the field of pharmaceuticals, construction, chemical, petrochemical, energy, agriculture, and food industries. This is the implementation of what was included in the government papers to support and localize strategic industries, and based on the directives of the Prime Minister in this regard. What is it going to help them do? They say that not only are they, because of what they're doing, it's going to be reducing hard currency transfers abroad. If they're not losing money in their reserves, it strengthens the country's value of their currency, in my opinion, and it also creates a stable market, stable investment platform, if you will, because the fact is that Iraq is going to have the gold and all the assets that they have and their reserves in place. We already know that Iraq has about 16 months worth of reserves for imports, and they only need 3 months. So they're in really good shape. So that's powerful in and of itself. And this last couple articles I have here is Iraq and Iran signed the minutes. Okay, so remember I told you they were about to sign it. So later in the day, looks like their time, Iraq and Iran signed the minutes of joint meetings related to trade. It says the Ministry of Commerce announced on Monday that it would sign the minutes of a joint meeting with its Iranian counterpart. The Ministry of Commerce and his accompanying delegation held meetings today with the Vice President of the Iranian Republic and the Iranian Minister of Economy and Finance to discuss numbers of economic, commercial, and political files, of course, and they were done on the sidelines of meetings of that Iraq joint committee's meetings. This is just basically telling you what the basis of it was, is the meeting witnessed a great convergence of views in the organization of some files and the completion of all procedures. I like that sound of that. Completions of all procedures related to the memorandums of understanding and minutes prepared by the two countries. Officials of the Islamic Republic and the government interacted with the proposals submitted by the Iraqi side in a way that serves the interest of both countries. And those files include industrial cities, free zones and railway connectivity, in addition to Iraqi water quotas and supplying Iraq with gas to operate electricity. So in addition to these files they talked about double taxation, getting rid of that, and the customs files and the removal of some violations. Well, remember I talked to you about the WCO. Well, they're just invoked the customs files. That would have included information that they have agreed, maybe the minutes that were all applied to all these different negotiations. And if they signed all of this, I think it's pretty powerful that we can expect to see what they said earlier on, that they want to see the results. Okay, so look, earlier on, I would say that there was 10 understandings or more, and that was between the Trade Minister Al-Ghurari to discussing the strength economic and trade relations. So they did 10 or more agreements, and they intended to sign it. But they sound like they did sign it. So that's big. And then Iran calls for the use of national currencies in the economic exchange with Iraq. So if you're going to do World Customs Organization and you're going to have an exchange rate to deal with your trade across borders. And who are we talking about? I just gave you numerous countries that they're all going to have to be on the same page. And so by them invoking this, the use between just Iraq and Iran, it says require the use of national currencies in commercial and economic exchanges. So they're going to do business between each other. The disparity between the Iraqi dinar and the Iraqi rial right now, today, even if Iraq bumps up a smidgen, it's still going to have an impact on the country. If they were to go back to a previous era, obviously would support the idea that these two countries are about ready to make a move that may be just completely off people's radars, because the only implications I can see is that they're going to have to be on a level playing field. So they must have gotten to that stage in the last few days or weeks to be able to talk like that, because the price differences are just, it's off the charts different. It doesn't work. So there's going to be a big change in some shape or form, in my opinion. The Minister of Commerce reveals again from Tehran about an upcoming visit by the Iranian president to Baghdad. So now it's the other way around. The president of Iran is going to come to Baghdad. So it says that since there was those 10 memorandums or more of understanding, it says that it was agreed with the Iranian Prime Minister of Commerce and the Vice President of the Republic to establish a mechanism. What mechanism are we talking about? Are we talking about an exchange rate? I don't know. It says that they're going to address the obstacles facing Iranian businessmen in the Iraqi market. One of the obstacles to me would be an exchange rate. I mean, if you're at 40,000 to 1 USD and Iraq's at 1,300 to 10, there's still a big discrepancy between those exchange rates. All right? So think about it. With the aim to improve, they're going to do this with the aim to improve business and investment environment in Iraq, explaining that the country is in a state of reconstruction and the Iranian investor must have a share in that. And so they want to be a part of that reconstruction. And why? Because there's going to be a lot of money to be made. It says, we aspire through the Iraqi government's economic vision to geographical distribution, commodity diversity, and benefit from a strong partner, which is a government demand. So these guys are demanding that they need to do it. One of the things that they talked about, it's going to be a requirement for them to have trade in the national currency. It's wonderful. It says the completion of all procedures related to these memorandums of understanding and minutes prepared by the two countries sound like they're ready to do it. Industrial cities, free zones, railway connectivity, in addition to Iraqi water quotas, supplying Iraq with gas to operate electricity. So we reiterate that. Sorry. They just basically conclude that in the end they're going to assign this evening by the presidents of both sides. That's the last thing that they say. We will sign this by this evening, president of both sides. So let's see if they finish this up, and let's see if we can have a wonderful week. Okay. All right. So everybody, thank you for being with me this evening. I'm glad that Wally showed up so you guys could see him today. And if you guys like my contact, hit the like button and please subscribe. And don't forget, we do have the ongoing system that we have, and Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle. Thank you for your help. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.